Hi, welcome to Budget MTG Decks. All magic fun, all cards under $1. I'm David, and today we're going to be looking at the top 10 commander cards in Hour of Devastation. Now, if you want to know how these cards operate in limited, so in draft or in sealed, then click on the card on your screen right now, because we also did a full set review of all the cards in Hour of Devastation. So what is the criteria to make the list? Well, we believe that these 10 cards are the most powerful EDH cards or commander cards that people will be using widely in their decks. Therefore, if it's a very situational card, it didn't make the list. Let's go right ahead and start with some honorable mentions. We're going to start with the Scorpion God. For 3, a black and a red, so for 5 mana we get a whopping 6/5 God. Now that is already really big. Additionally, whenever a creature with a -1/-1 counter dies, we're also going to get to draw a card. Cool, so it's got a little draw engine built in. Additionally, for a generic, a black and a red, so for 3 mana, we get to put a -1/-1 counter on another target creature. So it's also got removal. Awesome. And of course, draw built right in. Finally, whenever this guy dies, we're going to return it back to our hand. So that is super nice in Commander. If it is our Commander, then we don't have to pay that Commander tax. As you know, or as you may have noticed, this is a very nice card to build a Commander deck around. So this card will be the Commander, but we just don't see it being used as widespread in other decks. That's why it doesn't quite make the top 10. This is also the case for the Scarab God. For 3, a blue and a black, we get a 5/5 God. Not as big, still quite chunky. Additionally, at the beginning of our upkeep, we're going to have our opponent lose X life, and we're going to scry X, where X is the number of zombies we've got. So you may think, okay, cool, so we're going to build a zombie tribal deck around it. Not even necessary, because for 2, a black and a blue, so for 4 mana, we're going to be able to exile target creature card from our graveyard and then turn it into a 4/4 black zombie, and it's still going to have all its other abilities. So we're going to be able to eternalize it, which is super sweet. And finally, when this guy dies, just like the Scorpion God, we're going to return it back to our hands. Once again, very nice in Commander, but as our Commander, so we just don't see it being used in a lot of other decks. And finally, the Locust God. For 4, a blue and a red, we get a 4/4 flyer, super nice. Also, whenever we draw a card, we're going to create a 1/1 blue and red insect creature token with flying and haste. Additionally, for 4 mana, so 2 blue and a red, we're going to be able to draw a card and discard a card, so it's got looting built right into it. And finally, as all these gods, when it dies, we return it back to our hands so we can cast it again without paying that commander tax. This is actually a super fun commander to build in exactly the same way that you would build a Niv Mizzet deck, for example. And actually, we already have a budget Niv Mizzet deck built. You can actually just put the Locust God instead of Niv Mizzet, and the deck is ready to go. Put the link up right now on your screen. Once again, a lot of fun, just not going to be as widespread. The first card that has made the top 10 commander cards in Hour of Devastation is going to be Torment of Hellfire. For X and 2 black, where it's a sorcery, and we're going to be able to do the following process X amount of times. So let's say if we put in a 7 mana total, we're going to be able to do this 5 times. Okay, so our opponent is going to lose 3 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. So if we paid 7 mana, we're going to have our opponent lose 5 times 3 life, or they got to get rid of 5 non-land permanents or discard 5 cards, or a combination of those. And this is not a uniform effect. This is only towards your opponents. Additionally, this is not that they can choose to just say, oh, I'm going to just discard cards even if I got no cards in hand. They actually have to do this, which means that if they don't have any cards in hand, if they don't have any non-land permanents, they will be losing that life, which means that they're going to be put in a really awkward situation. And of course, in Commander, especially also in Black, we've got ways to be able to get more mana, pump more mana into it, and it becomes more and more devastating as the game progresses. Really nice card. The next card is Uncaged the Managerie. For X and 2 green, we've got another sorcery. This one allows us to search our library for X creature cards, all with different names, and they all have to have converted mana cost of X. We're going to reveal them, put them into our hand, and shuffle our library. Naturally, Commander is a singleton format, so we're all going to have creatures with different names. So that's actually not bad. Additionally, we're going to be able to look for a lot of utility creatures with the same converted mana cost. And the beauty of it is, the more mana we pump into it, the more bigger, better stuff we're able to get. So of course, tutors are great. We've got 99 cards we'd like to search. We like to get exactly the tools that we need. This card allows us to do that, and I think in Commander it's going to be super sweet. Mirage Mirror is next. For 3 mana, we get an artifact. It states that for 2 mana, we can have this guy become a copy of target artifact, creature, enchantment, or land until the end of turn. I mean, wow, what versatility. In Commander, there's so many different things that do different stuff, and you want multiples of it, but you can't because it's a singleton format. Now, Mirage Mirror allows us to get around that, just like as a clone effect would allow us to get another creature, which is super cool. Mirage Mirror does so much more than that. Not only is it able to become a copy of that best creature, it doesn't have to be your creature, it could be anybody's creature. Additionally, what if you don't want a creature? What if there's a super strong artifact or a very powerful enchantment? You can have it become copies of that, or even lands. The versatility is amazing. And on top of that, every turn you could choose it to become something different. So unlike a clone where it just stays that, every turn you just pay that 2 mana and it's going to become that awesome thing, that best thing on the battlefield. I can see a lot of decks wanting to play this. The next card is Solemnity for 2 and a white. So for 3 mana we get an enchantment that states players can't get counters. Also, counters can't be put on artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or lands. Atraxa says, what? No? Okay, we've got Proliferate. We've got -1/-1 counters. We've got +1/+1 counters. We've got experience counters. We've got time counters. We've got all kinds of different counters. There's so many decks that like to build their strategy around that. And the fun thing about this is it shuts all of that stuff down. Absolutely. It may seem a little bit niche, but if you are a kind of a stacks deck, the kind of deck that wants to punish your opponents for playing their strategy, Solemnity is going to shut a lot of those decks down. Ramunap Excavator is next for 2 and a green. We get a 2/3 Naga Cleric that has a very cool ability. It states you may play land cards from your graveyard. Now you may think, okay, Gidrock Monster wants this card and nobody else, so it's too situational. That's actually not true. Even if you're playing budget decks and you've got some cycle cards and you've got some Terramorphic Expands, those kind of cards, it'll still be of use. And of course, in Commander, you want to be playing your fetches. There's plenty of opportunities to get lots of lands into your graveyard and playing them, searching for other lands, and then Ramunap Excavator allows us to play those lands back once again from our graveyard, put them onto the battlefield, and then sack them again for their ability and get us even more land. Super, super strong. I think it's going to find a home in a lot of green decks. Boom! Hour of Devastation, roll credits. The name of the set also has an equally powerful card, which is just as nice in Commander. For 3 and 2 red, so for 5 mana, we get a sorcery. This thing is going to make sure all creatures lose indestructible until the end of turn, and it's going to deal 5 damage to each creature and each non-bolus planeswalker. Now, in Commander, of course, board wipes, super important. 5 damage kills a lot of stuff. However, some stuff might have indestructible. Doesn't matter. It's going to kill that stuff too. And additionally, somebody wants to be playing a lot of planeswalkers. Doesn't matter. Hour of Bolus, Hour of Devastation deals with that as well, as long as it's not a bolus planeswalker. This is going to be a lot of fun to play. Also, 5 mana is very inexpensive for what it does. I also think red decks are going to have a great boon with this card. Almost the same name, we've got Hour of Revelation next for 3 and 3 white for 6 mana. We got a sorcery. It's going to allow us to destroy all non-land permanents. Great. That means enchantments, artifacts, planeswalkers, the whole shebang. We're going to be able to blow that up together with those creatures. And we just established that in Commander, we're going to want to be using those board wipes. Additionally, it states it costs 3 less if there are 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield. We're playing with 4 players, or maybe even 5 players. We're going to have that in no time flat, which means this card might as well say, if you're playing Commander, pay 3 white, destroy all non-land permanents. And that is insanely cheap for a board wipe, especially one that hits so much stuff. Next up is the gift of Bolas himself, God-Pharaoh's Gift for 7 mana. It's an artifact. It allows us to, at the beginning of combat of our turn, we're going to be able to exile a creature card from our graveyard. And then if we do, we're going to create a token that's a copy of that, except it's going to be a 4/4 black zombie. It's also going to get haste until the end of turn. Now, we've discussed this already in the full set review. This is insane and limited, but in Commander, it is also super, super sweet. Why? Because we're playing big, chunky things. We're going to be playing small utility things, and this thing's going to be able to get every turn, get one of those things back out of the graveyard, sort of. Is going to make it into a 4/4, which of course it might shrink some things, it might grow some things. All in all, we get those abilities back. It's also going to be a zombie, might be relevant. I think this card is going to be able to give you so much utility out of your graveyard, and especially in EDH, there's a lot of decks that want to use their graveyard as their second hand, and this one basically allows you to play another one of those creatures every single turn, and the haste, nothing to sniff at. Now we come to a blue card that is going to be played a lot, I believe. For 6 and a blue, so for 7 mana, we get an enchantment. It's quite steep, but then again, in Commander, we don't mind paying premium for premium spells, and this one allows us to cast whenever we cast an instance or sorcery spell, if we do, we're going to be able to cast a copy of that and choose new targets for the copy. So basically, it's like a Melek Is It Paragon, except it's not on a creature, it's on an enchantment, which makes it more difficult to remove. Once we pop this down, all our instances and sorceries are going to be double, and we're going to be able to use different targets for it, so that is going to be super sweet. Any blue-red kind of a deck is going to love having this in there. And finally, the 10th card that we're going to want to put in our commander decks in Hour of Devastation is Razaketh the Foulblooded. For 5 and 3 black, so for 8 mana, we get an 8/8 flying trampler. Now, already in Commander, people love playing their demons. They're so flavorful, they're so fun, they're so big, they got flying. This one's also got trample. Awesome. 8/8 is some of the biggest stuff you're going to see on the battlefield. Additionally, if we pay 2 life and sacrifice a creature, another creature, we're going to be able to search our library for a card, put that card into our hand, and shuffle our library. Once again, Commander, 99 cards, a lot of cards to choose from, a lot of variety. However, this gives us a lot of consistency. Being able to tutor for cards is an extremely powerful ability, and we can do it multiple times for a measly 2 life and just whatever little creature that happens to be in our way at that point in time. I think that all black cards are going to want a Razaketh as a beater and as tutor for your answers. Very strong. Really looking forward to playing this card in Commander. Well, those are the top 10 cards I believe people will be using in Commander from Hour of Devastation. We've seen really powerful effects, very expensive cards that maybe in Standard won't see the light of day, but in Commander they have a perfect home. I would recommend you snatch these up as soon as possible because they're going to be a lot of fun to play. Also, if you still want to know how these cards fare in sealed or draft, you can click on the card right on your screen right now as we review all those cards for your pre-release, for example. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'm David, and this was Budget MTG Decks.